one-piece bathing suit made of something white. The water made it transparent. I told him I didn't want to swim in it, but he just grabbed me by the hand and dragged me into the water all the way, and I came out looking nude.
Well, that fine mind of yours gets pretty repulsive at times.
It's not what you told me on the train.
Now you're gonna throw that up to me.
You know, you can be pretty wonderful at times. Come on, partner. Why don't you kick off your spurs? I don't mind making a fool of myself over you.
Well, I mind. I feel embarrassed for you.
Feel embarrassed? But I can't live on this way.
Now, you agreed to accept that condition.
I know I did, but I can't. We'll think of something somehow. Whatever way we can. We'll have such wonderful times together. Just the two of us.
What is it?
You make a very excellent cup of tea.
Elizabeth Taylor made over 70 films and won 2 Oscars. But she's equally remembered for her 7 marriages, her diamonds, her illnesses, and her flamboyant lifestyle. Born in London but raised in the old Hollywood studio system, the talented actress has sometimes been overlooked amongst all the headlines. But it was the first 7 years of her life spent in London that determined her career.
All right, Martha, your recitation, please.
I was born in London, 1932, and, well, it was sort of, it was in Hampstead on a wonderful crescent street between Hampstead Heath and Wildwood Road, so it was like being in the country. And I had my first horse. I learned to ride in England bareback, but I had to leave her in England when the war broke out. They were the happiest days of my childhood, because I rode, and I went to ballet school, Madame Faccani, and she put on a concert for the royal family every year. And I was chosen out of my class, I was 3, to do the solo. And I did my little twinkle toes and all that stuff, and my butterfly curtsy. And I received applause, and the sound of applause hit my ears for the first time. And I was transfixed.
Wouldn't you like to go to America and act in the cinema?
You mean leave here? Leave school and Donald and everybody? And my and the pie?
Oh, they'd take the pie along. They want him, too.
Might be fun for us to go and see me doing things in the pictures.
Elizabeth's parents were advised by friends to leave England to escape the war. They returned to their homeland in the United States and settled in Beverly Hills. It was there that her father met producer Sam Marks, who, after hearing about her English accent, auditioned her for the MGM film Lassie Come Home.
So I went out, and I just got into it and talked to the dog.
She doesn't seem well, Grandfather.
Poor Lassie.
Poor Lassie. Poor girl.
And I got the part. And we did my segment in 2 weeks.
Close the gate, Mr. Scott! Close the gate! Don't let her get out! Close it! Close the gate!
Priscilla!
You've let her go. That's what she's done. She's let her go.
She's going toward south, Grandfather. She's going toward Yorkshire.
By Jove, child, I believe you're right.
Then they signed me up for 18 years.
Our daughter's famous.
Famous.
There's fortunes of money in this.
I had a great imagination, and I just slid into it. And it was like a piece of cake.
But it was with her next film, National Velvet, in 1944, that she established herself as a major new star.
She was a little girl. She was 11 years old. And I remember being, even at that time, dazzled by her coloring was so extraordinary. The violet blue eyes and the dark hair and the freckles and the natural color in her cheeks. She was just the most glorious-looking little girl I'd ever seen.
Strange. Not dignified to be polite when you're in love.
Velvet, you're too young to understand some things. Have you ever really felt keen about anything?
We were working in these incredible sets, which were outdoor scenes, but they were actually built in indoor sets. It was on stage 27 at MGM, an enormous stage. And the whole thing was built, and the daylight was created, and the heat was intense, and the physical aspects of making movies was pretty darned uncomfortable. Her mother was always on the set, because they hadn't really been in this country very long, and neither had I. So we sort of shared that.
Tweena, what is it? What's happened? Somebody ill?
It's Ted. They sent him away to live with his aunt in Lancaster.
You mean you're sniveling for a boy? You brought me home for that?
Velvet.
You can see the sensitivity in the performance. It's not just that she's a beautiful little girl or a very effective child actress. There's something more in her performance, and the quality is one of maturity, emotional depth and maturity. And I think the handwriting was on the wall from the beginning with her.
He's a gentle one. I'll just call him Pie. Oh, you're a pretty one, Pie. You didn't mean to run away.
You're a wizard, Velvet.
May I ride him, Mr. Reed?
Ride this horse.
Oh, please, let me ride him.
As a young star, Elizabeth had to balance her film career with the schooling necessary for a child of that age.
As far as education went, on the set they would have like a little black cubbyhole, and you would have your tutor, and you would, the minimum you could be in there was 10 minutes. So you had to ram some facts in your mind in 10 minutes, then go out on the set, do your lines, come back, pick up where you'd left off, go out, slip back into character. It was not easy. I don't know why we weren't all a bunch of schizophrenics. Well, a lot of us were.
I think her emotional intelligence is really high. And I think she somehow knew underneath, okay, it's time to put aside childish things and become first a teenage actress and then an adult actress.
When she emerged as a young, glamorous actress, she made the transition so effortlessly because MGM supported her through those years when she could have been going through a difficult period of development, I don't know. And you never saw it because suddenly she emerged, and there she was. She was still under contract, and they were ready, and they had the stories. So she just took off, just like a lovely bird.
After a string of films as a child star, Elizabeth Taylor had physically outgrown juvenile parts. At the age of only 17, A Place in the Sun was firmly to establish her as a major adult star.
Wow. Hello.
Hello.
I see you had a misspent youth.
I guess it was.
A while alone.
I loved acting, but I didn't take it seriously. I didn't take it seriously until I worked with Montgomery Clift in A Place in the Sun, which is one of my favorite films.
In blue?
I'm just fooling around. Maybe you'd like to play.
Oh, no. I'll just watch you. Go ahead.
I still would camp around on the set and drive everybody mad and give them the giggles and be silly and all that. But when I saw Monty preparing, I thought, my God, it isn't all about just having fun. And I think that's when I first looked at him and saw how involved he was. His whole being. He could make himself shake. And he couldn't stop after the director said, cut. He would sweat. Real sweat.
I'll come down in the morning.
And I thought, I've just been playing with toys.
Clift was the beginning of what I call a certain realistic purity in acting. Then there came Branagh, and Jimmy Dean was not an actor yet. He didn't have enough experience, but he had great instincts. And then I came along, which contributed a little bit, but the beginning was Clift.
And I used to take Monty and say, Monty, don't do this to yourself. You've got to release it when the scene's over. And, you know, I'd hold him. I was only 16. I think I had my 17th birthday on the film. And it was almost like sometimes I was older than he was. But watching his intensity, I learned not to let it kill you, but that it wasn't a game. That you had to feel it in your gut, and your guts had to get in an uproar.
They're a pair of beautiful people who can welcome the camera up close and who can share their emotional intensity and passion very easily in front of the camera. So whatever his training was that gave him access to that kind of thing that he could use as a performance, she had the same access by some kind of natural instinct.
In rehearsals, I have never cried. Why waste it? And I get involved too, and sometimes you just don't play around with your own emotions that way. Your stomach gets upset, and it's very hard sometimes to stop. So I wait, and then I get myself somehow or other, and I don't know how. I've never had an acting lesson.
I think that Elizabeth is an instinctive actress. I think she was simply brought up around acting. Acting was everywhere in her young life, I would have thought. And you do learn so much by watching, listening, and viewing. You know, we're all like sponges.
First of all, you know you're perfectly safe on a movie set. You know the crew is there to take care of you. You know the lights will be fixed to camouflage the defects. You know that the director, if you trust him, and they were usually good directors that you worked with, will protect you from being a real asshole. And you know that then you know if you're an actor that's in that kind of A-list echelon, that if you really surrender and get out of your own way, particularly in a close-up, that the audience will see your soul. And she knew that.
I'll go on loving you for as long as I live.
Love me for the time I have left. Nanny. Okay.
Oh, but there was such energy coming out of him. What was coming out of his eyes, his body. It was, I imagine, like sitting next to an electric chair.
Seems like we always spend the best part of our time just saying goodbye.
I think she was working with an actor that she was very fond of, and I think the chemistry between the two of them in that instance was really very real, and it worked unbelievably well.
They had an unspoken, perhaps, understanding of the price of the gift of beauty that nature had given them. And when Mr. Clift had that unfortunate accident and had to have his jaw wired, that was the beginning of his kind of crumbling.
Leaving my house, he had the worst accident I've ever seen. And I was first on the scene and pulled his head off the dashboard and the steering wheel. And I probably shouldn't have touched him, but his head was getting bigger and bigger. And by this time, it was almost level with his delicate shoulders. And he opened his eyes, and they were bright red. So the blue of them looked even bluer. He looked like an alien. And he tried to say something. I said, "What is it, my love? What is it, baby?" And finally I made out, "Could you pull my teeth out?" And he had 2 front teeth going through his tongue, which made it hard for him to speak. So I pulled them out for him. The ambulance was 45 minutes late. It was a nightmare.
I don't know why Elizabeth had long and good relationships with gay men. Some of them were brought into her life through work. She worked with James Dean, she worked with Montgomery Clift, and with Rock Hudson, men whom we know now all were gay. She's a very loyal friend. If you are her friend, she's 100% with you. And she loved them.
Rock and Jimmy didn't like each other. And I was forever trying to intervene and get them to be friends. And we each had a house, like in a triangle, in this little town in Marfa, Texas, where we did practically all the film. It was like everybody was sort of going in this triangle, but those two trying to avoid each other.
You always did look pretty. It's pretty now, good enough to eat.
Wait a minute.
Ah, you touchy, Vic. You touchy is no cook.
Vic, you should have shot that fellow a long time ago. Now he's too rich to kill.
In Giant, we see her acting very well with 2 totally different types of actor. One is Rock Hudson, one is James Dean. Hudson coming more, as she does, from the Hollywood school of movie star trained performer to become a star and have a persona, and James Dean more the method actor. And she adjusts herself and her performance very well to both styles, and yet manages to keep her own character together in a coherent way. I mean, I think that's quite remarkable.
Mr. Benedict's yacht is one of the largest of them all.
Oh, really? Well, just how large is that?
Around 500,000. 595,000 acres, to be exact.
I'd call that quite a parcel.
How many acres did you say, Mr. Benedict?
He said 595,000 acres, Mama. And you should see the greedy look on your face.
When are you going to get married, Jim? Don't you need somebody to help you with
This kind of responsibility?
Well, when I get some time to look around, I'll go back east and Maryland, places. Say, you got any good-looking sisters back there? Might be interested in some poor people.
Money isn't all, you know, Jeff.
Not when you got it.
When you see Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean performing together in a scene where they're having tea at his shack, what you see is a woman raised in a studio system with an erratic young actor.
When you say other people, what do you mean?
You see how skilled she is at holding her own with him and how skilled she is at creating the kind of subtext that he has been trained to create.
But your situation is so different. You're a working man.
Well, that's something I'm going to try to fix.
There was an intensity that you felt coming out of him. And he'd come over to my house sometimes at nighttime, and we'd sit and talk until 3 in the morning. That youth. And then we'd be on the set like at 7. And he would reveal to me things that you only reveal to a very good friend. Wouldn't you love to know?
But before the film was completed, James Dean was killed in a car crash. He was 24, and Giant was only his 3rd film.
On some level, I think she had a really exquisite sense of compassion for people who thought they were misfits. That didn't mean they were, but if she thought they felt it, she would be there for them. Now, where that came from, I don't know, because I don't know if she felt like a misfit being so beautiful. It's possible to be so beautiful and so talented and feel like a misfit.
Lean on me, baby. You've got a nice smell about you. Is your bath water cool?
No.
I know something make you feel cool and fresh. Alcohol rub. Cologne.
No thanks. We'd smell alike, like a couple of cats in the heat.
The minute the camera goes on, something happens in me. Then I start to pull the stops. But when it's rehearsal, my mind knows that this isn't the real thing. And some directors and actors, like Paul Newman, evidently went up to Richard Brooks and said, "Richard, I mean, is this it? Is this all she's gonna give?" And Richard said, "It's okay, Paul. You wait."
Maybe I got rid of Skipper. Skipper went out anyway. I didn't get rid of him at all.
I think the first take is the most honest, the most spontaneous. You do things that just come to your head, and nobody can stop you because you're filming. If they don't like it, you do it again. But you get a sense of adventure. You get a rush of like being that person and being true to that person and what they would do. Not what you would do, what they would do.
Isn't it an awful joke, honey? I lost you anyway.
In 1957, after marriages to both Nicky Hilton and English actor Michael Wilding, Elizabeth married the producer of Around the World in 80 Days, Mike Todd, who was to influence her life more than any man before.
Mike Todd was a steamrolling fireball entrepreneur, impresario, could talk you into anything. And he was funny, and he was rakish, and he was unbelievably adventurous, and he just totally fell in love with Elizabeth.
Mike Todd was a force of liberation for her. She had been controlled and dominated by her mother. She had been controlled and dominated by MGM. And this man just said, hey, let's go. And he took her out of that. He took her out into a world of her own. And even though perhaps he tried to control and dominate her, I think he gave her the sense of freedom and an exciting, wonderful whirlwind of life. Whenever a beautiful young girl marries a rich older man, we always have to have a little cynicism.
Well, Liz, I'm quoting you now. You once said you had the mind of a child in a woman's body. Am I right?
That was when I was 15, yes.
Oh, I see. Well, I was wondering, since you've been married to such a mature man of the world as Mr. Todd, you feel you've matured some point now?
Well, I hope so. Otherwise, I'd be slightly retarded, wouldn't I?
As some of you know, I'm married to a girl who's a few years my junior. As a matter of fact, she's a few years my junior's junior.
During the filming of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Elizabeth, together with Mike Todd, was supposed to fly to New York on their private plane, where he was due to receive an award. But she fell ill.
I had pneumonia and a temperature of 103. And, of course, the doctor said I couldn't fly. They had to shoot around me. They were giving me antibiotics, everything. A week went by, and my temperature wouldn't budge. And he said, I'm going to have to go, love. It's tomorrow, and we're going to have to refuel about 3 times. I'll be up all night. And we said goodbye 5 times. He'd go downstairs. And then he'd come back upstairs and embrace me and say goodbye again. And he did that 5 times. And the next morning, the door opened at 6 o'clock in the morning. And my secretary and my doctor walked into the room. And I just screamed, he's not. But he was. He was dead.
The man who had meant so much to Elizabeth Taylor was dead after only 414 days of marriage.
I went to see her a few hours after we got the word that Michael had died in the plane crash. And she was drinking orange juice and vodka and very upset with God. Whew, how do you explain that? And why wasn't I on the plane? Why didn't I die too? Why did he have to go? And raged at God.
Despite her grief, Elizabeth had to honor her studio contract and return to the set of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
They gave me 2 weeks off because I'd developed a terrible stutter. But when I spoke in a Southern accent, I could get rid of it. And after 2 weeks staying with my brother and sister-in-law, I went back to work, and it was supposed to have been my last film. And they said, no, we have another film for you, Butterfield 8. And I said, no, you did it, you shook hands with Mike. It was a gentleman's agreement. And they said, but Mike is dead. So you have to do this other film. I finished Cat. I did Butterfield 8 with a gun at my temple. I didn't speak to the director. During the whole thing, he was a method director. Everything was refer to this, refer to that. And I ended up winning an Oscar for it.
This year there were many magnificent performances by actresses. The envelope, please. Elizabeth Taylor.
I don't really know how to express my gratitude for this and for everything. I guess all I can do is say thank you. Thank you with all my heart.
It was more than ironic. It was a large hoot. When I'd seen the film in a screening room, can I swear on this? I wrote in lipstick like Gloria did on the mirror. Piece of shit. Excuse me.
It's Alexandria at Pinewood.
Cleopatra began filming in 1960, but because of bad weather and Elizabeth's poor health, filming was abandoned, and the next year production relocated to Italy. It took over 2.5 years to make, and was famous not only for being the most expensive movie ever made, but for Elizabeth's $1 million fee.
Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra, Siren of the Nile.
I was the first person to break the sound barrier, and now I'm not even a footnote with these salaries of $20 million.
She didn't want to do Cleopatra, you know. That's why she asked for $1 million. She thought they'd turn her down. Joan Collins wanted to do Cleopatra. Elizabeth, I don't think she cared.
If the public generally believes, no matter what historians tell us, that Cleopatra was the most beautiful woman of the world ever, then of course you've got to cast the person that everyone thinks is the most beautiful woman of the world. So that would be Elizabeth Taylor at that time.
She told me about Cleopatra coming into Rome. She has a fear of heights. She says, I'm sitting on this goddamn thing about 40 feet in the air, and Richard's close because he knows I'm afraid of falling.
Richard Burton, noted for his respected theatrical background, was to become a prominent figure in the life of Elizabeth Taylor.
Richard Burton as Mark Antony, but a pawn in the arms of this woman.
I'd known him since I was 19. And I used to say, well, I'm not going to be another notch on his belt. And the first day that we worked together, he was suffering from a hangover. Surprise. And he was looking so vulnerable in his little Roman dress, and his hands were all shaky, and he looked such a mess. And he was trying to drink a cup of coffee, and his hand was going like that. And I said, would you like me to help you? So I held the cup to his lips, and our eyes locked, and he drank the whole cup And we just kept looking at each other.
She had fallen in love with Richard, and I was asking her about it. And she was sitting at a table drinking champagne. And I think she thought that I disapproved of her going from one man to the other. And she lifted the glass of champagne, and she looked straight into my eyes, and they welled up. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she said, "Richard has taught me how." And the tears spilled over, and she put the glass here so that the tear would fall into the champagne. How to love. I started to cry. I thought, listen, she loves this man, whatever I've heard about him. She had it so poetically described to me so that I would approve.
Anthony, how will I live?
Same as I. One breath upon the other. Each bringing us one breath closer.
You take so much of me with you so far. Remember, they want you to forget, please.
Forget? How? I can never be more far away from you than this.
Remember, the studio system hushed up everyone's affairs, always. The way it is today with the tabloids, it wasn't like that when I was growing up at all. I mean, everybody acted as if everyone was just going home to bed at 9 o'clock and certainly sleeping with their own proper mate. So when these rumors began to hit, it was one of the first breakthroughs of that kind of real celebrity journalism reporting their private, secret, naughty lives. And everybody was talking about this.
He tried to have a true love under the microscope of publicity, which can become almost impossible. You don't have a chance to be too intimate too often if there's paparazzi or what have you and everybody watching every move. All the myths and stories about you which are not true at all. You can't move in your private life, almost. You can't move.
Being with him, I think he made everybody want to do their best.
I did a scene with her one day in, I've forgotten the film. And I said, she doesn't do anything. What's she doing? And the mutual friend said, go and see her tomorrow on the rushes. And I went to see her and she was doing everything.
He very sweetly said that I taught him how to be a movie actor. He taught me to be a better actress.
I think she's one of the world's greatest screen actors.
Is that a threat, George, huh?
That's a threat, Martha.
You're gonna get it, baby.
Be careful, Martha. I'll rip you to pieces.
You're not man enough. You haven't the guts.
Total war?
Total.
Only 3 years after Cleopatra, Elizabeth recruited theatre director Mike Nichols to direct his first movie, Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
What she was prepared to do in the way of dressing herself down and graying her hair and looking like hell, you know, I mean, that's the mark of a real, of an actress who wants to stand up and be counted. You don't do those things unless you have the confidence to carry it off. And that took a lot of confidence.
What a dump. Hey, what's that from? What a dump.
I had to put on 20 pounds, which made me very happy. I wore prosthetics under my eyes, under my chin, had my boobs pressed down, wore padding around my waist, and I just generally, you know, made my mouth over the line of my own mouth and lowered my voice and generally looked like a slob.
It's really a very sad story.
Is it?
Oh, it would make you weep.
In the roadside cafe, the dancing with the big boobs and the hips, and she was just ready to do it to make him jealous.
You have ugly talents, Martha.
Is that so?
Don't encourage her.
Encourage me.
Go on.
I warn you, don't encourage her.
He warns you. Don't encourage
Her
me.
dramatic ability, we always knew. But that scene in the roadhouse with the booze and the defiance of her own beauty. I mean, she really let herself be ugly and trampy and bloated and drunk.
But, Daddy, I mean, but, sir, this isn't a novel at all.
You will not say this.
Hell, if you keep away from me. No, sir, this isn't a novel at all. This is the truth. This really happened to me.
I'll kill you.
I think the average person doesn't think about how difficult it is to give a really explosive and emotional performance in film, because you stop in the middle of the scene. You have to start over and do it again. You have to stop for the cut. You have to reshoot for the reverse angle shots for the other actor. You have your emotion being constantly taken away from you. And the kind of physical, mental, and emotional control it takes to give a raw, explosive, angry performance like the one Elizabeth Taylor gives in Virginia Woolf is exceedingly difficult.
You're working and you put on that working coat. And that never became clearer to me than when we were doing Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Because on the set, we would scream and blood would drip and brains would spill. And we'd get home and play with the kids and go to bed and make love and then get around studying our lines for the next day.
The most difficult part, of course, of all was Elizabeth's. And quite rightly, she dominated the film. She won an Oscar for it, he said bitterly.
Getting angrier? Until he watched for a couple of years and started thinking that maybe it wasn't such a good idea after all, that maybe Georgie boy didn't have the stuff, that maybe he didn't have it in him.
Stop it, Martha.
And I didn't, he said equally bitterly.
I did the other day see like about the last fourth of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I was so compelled by Richard. And why he didn't get an Oscar makes me so angry. He was so brilliant.
But it was Elizabeth who won the Oscar, her second. Yet perhaps her greatest challenge was yet to come, taking a different form from the roles she'd played before.
In Hollywood, show business stars, shocked at the revelation that Rock Hudson has AIDS, have been joining forces to raise money for research into the disease.
Ever since Rock Hudson crossed his own version of the River Styx last month and went public with his AIDS sickness, there has been a significant new focus on a disease that threatens to become an epidemic.
I was involved with AIDS long before I knew Rock had AIDS.
In the early years of AIDS, the public homophobia, the dislike of people who are gay, was so intense that it infuriated Elizabeth. It hurt her and it infuriated her, and she was indignant.
Everybody was talking about it, but like this. And nobody was doing anything about it, including myself. And then I got really angry.
Rock Hudson was in his private suite in this Los Angeles hospital, suffering from a disease which has particularly afflicted the homosexual community.
And I got in touch with Rock's doctor before I got in touch with Rock. And I said, you know, does Rock have AIDS? And he said yes. And then I asked him all about it, and Rock had no chances. People were telling me not to become involved. I received death threats, and I was getting angrier and angrier. And I thought, then I have to do something about it. And I put myself out there.
All we can do at this point is help our friends who have AIDS.
Rock's estate sent a check for $250,000, which started us off. Then I found that a brilliant woman in New York, she found out that we were trying to do the same thing that she was trying to do, Dr. Matilda Krim. So we joined forces and came up with the name AMFAR for research. And I think we've raised about $160 million.
Well, when one meets for the first time with somebody like Elizabeth, who is really Hollywood royalty, maybe the last one we have, one, yes, one goes with thoughts of perhaps she may not be with the cause as much as I would like. She may be more window dressing than anything else. And that feeling was dispelled instantly. She was obviously very, very sincere.
As I traveled around the country and visited hospices, because I would do my perfume tour and then anonymously go to visit a hospital without photographers or anybody else knowing. And I'd ask the patients what they wanted, what they needed. And they said, we just want somebody to put their arms around us. We're not contagious.
Elizabeth Taylor is a passionate person. And when she feels, or since she feels so strongly about AIDS and about defending her friends, she is very passionate about that. That is, I think, over recent years, her big passion. And she will never give an inch on this.
Wanting to give direct help to those affected by HIV and AIDS, Elizabeth set up the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. It is as a result of this tireless campaigning, and in recognition of her body of work as an actress, that she's recently been made a Dame of the British Empire.
She's earned it, and I'm delighted for her. I think that's a lovely thing, that recognition by the country of her birth, which is interesting because she's lived here for years and years. I don't think she ever became a citizen, though. She's always remained English.
First place, Sir Rodney sounds better than Dame Elizabeth or Sir Tony. Here comes Sir Rodney now. I mean, that's got some royalties, now, whatever they get, they deserve. I'm jealous of that. I'd like to be a Sir Rodney. Sir Rodney's car is coming now. Sir Rodney's car is stopping. Sir Rodney's getting out of the car. Sir Rodney fell on his face.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Mikos Cassadine.
Over the last 20 years, Elizabeth Taylor's attempts to pick up her film career have had mixed results, but she's determined to return to the screen.
I have seen General Hospital and the university, and I approve, as my husband would have approved. Mikos Cassadine had a deep and abiding love. I said Cassadine.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Oh, shit.
Right.
I startled myself. I
I'm sorry, folks. I'm not used to acting.
I just would like to do something to see, first of all, if I can, not at their expense. I think I still can.
I want to see Elizabeth Taylor knowing, as we all do, this extraordinary arc of her life and her suffering and her overcoming of suffering and her humor and her beauty and her children and her jewels and her men and her paintings and her food. I would like to see anything that Elizabeth would do.
I think they're afraid of me. I mean, I can't think why. I've only broken my back 3 times in the last 2 years.
We have a great script. It's called These Old Broads, that Carrie Fisher wrote. For me, for Debbie, for Betty Bacall or Julie Andrews, and Elizabeth. It is the greatest part she'll ever play. And she plays it in bed. So she doesn't have to get up early. She can stay there. And she doesn't have to stay long.
Let's just get this thing over with. I assume you and Wesley have discussed some preliminary figures. But I wanted to show you a number for each of these ladies that I think is closer to the mark. Ladies, will you excuse me a minute? Come.
She is as famous today as she ever was. That's the level of her celebrity. That is what is unique about her. She transcends her own work. We don't need her work. We just need her. That's really the mark of the most remarkable movie star, the last of the great royal movie stars of the Hollywood studio system, Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, if you missed it earlier, secrets revealed about the life of a superstar, Elizabeth Taylor, A Life in 10 Pictures, streaming now.